Hello bookish friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lexi, and today we are talking about the 24 books I want to read in the year of 2024. So this is something I've never done before, and I usually like to do some sort of reading challenge, and last year I did the Barnes & Noble 2023 reading challenge, and it had a bunch of different prompts, and I actually read through most of them, but there was a couple that I didn't get to. And when I was getting ready to like prepare for the new year and doing my reading journal, I left a blank page for that reading challenge, and I was going to do the same thing this year. And then I waited on it, and I was like, let me see what else is out there and see like what other people are doing and how they're making like year-long TBRs. And obviously everybody does this where it's like 22 and 22, 23 and 23, and 24 and 2024. So I was like, let me do that. And so I went through my reading room after I reorganized after getting this new shelf, and I kind of went through and picked out books that have been on my TBR for the longest, and books that I have been saying for such a long time, like I really want to get to that, I eventually will, and obviously never did. So today we're going to go over the 24 books I want to read in 2024. And yeah, let's not waste much time and just get right into it. Okay, so before we start, I just want to preface that I'm not going to be talking about each book for a really long time, because I don't want this video to be like that long. When it comes to like sit down videos, specifically for me, I don't like to sit and watch somebody talk about a book for like 2-3 minutes and explain what it's going to be about. I just want them to explain like the brief summary of the book and why they picked it and whatnot. So that's what we're going to do. My goal is to talk about each book for like a minute, so this video is only 24 minutes-ish long. Probably 27 realistically with the intro and outro. So, and a couple of the books, I think there's only 3 of the books I don't physically have right now because they are new releases that are coming out in the upcoming year, and they are probably my 3 most anticipated releases for 2024. Like, these are the top 3 that I can't wait for in the new year. So without further ado, let's begin. The first book I have on my TBR for the year of 2024 is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. I just smacked myself in the face with that book. This is a book I bought on a whim after simply just reading the description. I bought this, I don't even know, probably a year or 2 ago, and the concept sounded really cool to me at the time, and then I obviously just never got to it. And then I've been seeing it pop up on like my feed and Instagram, and people like raving about this book. It says you wake up, pour a cup of coffee, and head out, but today when you open your front door, waiting for you is a small wooden box. This box holds your fate, the exact number of years you will live. So I think you open this, figure out how many years you have to live, and then you have to decide, or do you want to live, do you want to go all out, or do you want to just stay recluse and stay with your loved ones? And yeah, that just, I don't know, that sounds so cool to me. So very excited for this one. The next book I have is Big Swiss by Jen Beagin. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but I love this cover. It's about a sex therapist transcriptionist and her wild affair with one of the patients. So this main character is a sex transcriptionist, which means she like writes the notes for a sex therapist, ends up falling in love with one of the patients, and then I don't know what goes on from there, but I've heard that this is like amazing, and I bought this a while ago, and it's one that every time I see it I'm like, oh, I really want to get to that, but I never do. So this is the year for reading Big Swiss. The next book I have, I bought, I don't even know how long ago, probably a year or 2 ago at this point, and I bought it simply because of Peru's project here on YouTube, and that is Strange the Dreamer by Lonnie Taylor. This is some sort of fantasy. I don't necessarily know what this book is about, but it's obviously a magical fantasy book. Peru's project like swears by this book. It's a duology, and I already own the second book without even reading the first book. So, but the thing that scares me is this is a little thick boy, so we shall see. But it says the dream chooses the dreamer, so that just, I don't know. When Peru's project was like raving about it, I was like, sounds like something I want. So obviously bought it for myself. And if I like that one enough, maybe I'll read the second one in this year too, who knows. The next book I have is Divergent by Veronica Roth. I read this book years ago, like when it first came out. Obviously, I've watched all the movies. 4 is my movie boyfriend and my book boyfriend. You guys can have PETA. I don't want him. I want 4. I want to reread this, I guess you would call it, because of my friend here on YouTube and Instagram, Sarah Ward, the magical reader. She like always talks about this book and how it's one of her favorites. So when I saw this at a library sale for only like $1, I bought it. And I'm excited to reread this book in my older years and see if it's as good as it was back then. Next I have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is part of the Regency Fairy series. There's 3 books. I have all of them. It's difficult to find a husband in Regency England when you're a young lady with only half a soul. So I've heard that this is like a cozy fantasy. I love this cover. And there's a lot of YouTubers that I follow here that talk about this book. That is one I literally have been meaning to read for like the last 2 years. Okay, next I have Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. This is the second book to the Delilah Green Doesn't Care series. I loved that book. This is by Ashley Herring Blake, by the way, and it's basically just like a romance series. The first one follows Delilah, and then this Astrid is her sister, I think. It says, an interior designer who is never without the perfect plan learns to renovate her love life without one in this romantic comedy. So if you haven't read this series, please do yourself a favor and do it. The spice in these books is really good too, not gonna lie. The next book, I literally have been trying to read this for months. Like I put it on TBRs for probably the last like 3-4 months at this point and just for some reason never pick it up. That book is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Obviously this is a romance book, a funny, powerful novel about trading in the life you have for the life you want. Everybody raves about this book. There's a second book to it. I'm gonna try to get it on audio if I don't physically read it. Man, I need to really read that one. I'm gonna talk about the books that I don't physically have yet at the very end, so that way I can just get through all the physical ones first. And then we'll talk about those 3 at the very end. The next book I have, and you've heard me talk about this one, is Shady Hollow by Janae Black. This is a cozy fantasy series. There's 4 books currently where instead of following humans, you are following woodland creatures. It's like a mystery thriller, but it's cozy. And I legit have been putting this on a TBR. I'm pretty sure I even brought this to Hawaii with me and did not read it. And I have all 4 books for some reason. Don't know why I do that, honestly. Okay, the next book I have is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalla. I'm not even gonna try this book. This was like one of the first book of the month books I've ever gotten. It says, it's an electric debut about the tension that unfurls when 2 young black women meet against the starkly white backdrop of New York City book publishing. So I'm pretty sure these girls work in publishing. They're obviously black females. I think it's just like a contemporary fiction. So I love this cover and I literally have been trying to read that book for years. Next, I'm gonna go through this one quickly because everybody knows what this book is. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm currently reading A Court of Silver Flames, which is the last book for now in the ACOTAR series. Once I'm done with that series, I want to go into the Crescent City series, which, spoiler alert, Crescent City is also on this list. And then when I'm done with Crescent City, I'm going to dive into this series. And for those asking and wondering, I am reading Assassin's Blade after Air of Fire because I want my heart to be shattered. The next book I have is The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. I can never fucking say this name. I don't get what it is. By this author. This is just a thriller book inspired by Frankenstein. I didn't know that. Explores the eerie mysteries of childhood and the evils perpetrated by the monsters among us. I don't know, I love this cover. And I've been wishy-washy with this author. There's some things that I've loved and some things that I just like did not care for, so we're gonna see what that's all about. The next book I have is A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. This is the Veronica Speedwell series book. This is obviously book 1. There's like 9 books in this series at this point. I bought this also probably 2-3 years ago, and it's just like a cozy mystery series, but it's like set in London in the 1880s, and I've heard that the relationship between Veronica and Stoker is like to die for. And I read Killers of a Certain Age by this author and loved it. So when I was like putting this list together, I was like, I have to put this book in this series on my 24 and 2024. So this is on there. Keeping with the cozy theme, I guess. I want to read Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree in 2024. I love Legends and Lattes. That's like one of my favorite cozy fantasy books. This is the prequel to that where we're learning about how Viv got to the point that she was at in Legends and Lattes. And it's just a cozy fantasy, and I didn't get a chance to read this when it came out in November of 2023, and I still have not had a chance to read it, so this was like a no-brainer putting on my 24 and 2024. Okay, next we have River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. I think that's how you pronounce it. Love this cover. Rare, moving, and powerful. This beautiful page-turning and redemptive story of a mother's gripping journey across the Caribbean to find her stolen children in the aftermath of slavery is a remarkable debut. That sounds amazing and I love it. I can't wait for this. I think Books and Lala, Kayla was just talking about this and gave it 5 stars. I'm almost positive, don't quote me on that. So when I saw that, I was like, well, I have that on my TBR. And another goal of mine for this year is to read more of my Book of the Month books. So that's why you're seeing a decent amount of Book of the Month books on this. And when this one was raved about by Kayla, and then I know I've had this for way too freaking long, and it's a Book of the Month, I was like, checks all 3 boxes, so perfect. We're on to the last stack. The first book I have is Crescent City. I am so intimidated by this book because it is so big. I will never forget that, like, when I really got into reading, I would see these books on tables and be like, I would never read that because it's too big for me. And here I am, fully obsessed with Sarah J Maas and everything in her universes. I literally was the biggest hater of Sarah J Maas. Not even like hater, it was kind of just like, what's the hype? Like, I don't get it. I don't read fantasy, so I wouldn't like it. And joke's on me. Okay, I think this whole stack is pretty much fantasy. Damn. The next book I have is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is a very popular series over on the socials. This is a sci-fi, and I think it's like different groups are different colors, and the reds are like the peasants and they revolt against their government, I think. This is a, I don't know how many book series. I think there's like 4 books at this point, maybe more, I don't really know. But a lot of people really like this, and I'm very excited to finally read this one. Next, we have a book that I have literally been saying I'm gonna read for at least a year now, and my friend Danny from Books by Danny on Instagram and TikTok has been like begging me to read this. When we first became like friends, she was like, Lexi, please read this book. And I was like, oh, I'm going to. Never did. But that book is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is just like a romantasy series. The thing that scares me about this author is that she has like 7 different series and they all sound so similar, so it's just like overwhelming. I don't even know what this is about. Obviously it's about a kingdom, some fantasy stuff, hopefully some great spice in this, but this is one that I like really need to read this year. Next book is one that I've had for so long and I literally cannot believe I haven't read this yet, and that is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that like instantly became one of my favorite books ever. So then I went on a binge and bought like a ton of her books, and then I pre-ordered this and got this the second it came out, and I have yet to read it, and I'm pretty sure this came out 2022. This says, the shadows are not real, the dreams can never hurt you. You will be safe as long as you stay away from... The shadows are not real, the dreams can never hurt you. You will be safe as long as you stay away from Gallant. I don't really know what this is about, but I think this will read really quick because one, it's like stumpy. I don't know if that's the right word. Like, it's like the size, it's smaller than like a paper, actually it's the same height as a paperback, but it's like an awkward size for a book, and there's not like that many words on each page. And some of these pages, like, that's not a page. That's just like one single line, a picture, a quote. Like, there's a big chunk of this book that's not even real pages, so I feel like I could read this pretty quickly, and I've heard that this is amazing. I just want to read this. Okay, next we have Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison, and this was not a book that I've owned for that long, but Rachel Harrison is like my girl. I read Such Sharp Teeth last fall, and weirdly loved it. Like, wasn't really sure what I was getting into, but once I read it, I was like, what the hell? Why did I not read this before? So we are going to read this year. A cynical 20-something must confront her unconventional family's dark secrets in this fiery horror novel. So I'm pretty sure this has to do with like cults and family drama and stuff. So cannot wait to read this and read more from Rachel Harrison. Next, I don't know how I feel about this one. If I have to DNF this one, I have to DNF this one, but I at least want to get it off my shelves. That is Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. I did read Things We Never Got Over, I think last year or 2 years ago, I don't even know at this point. For like the first 75% of it, I was like, what the hell is happening? Like, this is so boring. And then the last like 25%, I was like, oh my god, I'm eating this up, what happens? And I feel like that's how this book is gonna be, because they're like chunky books. But I told everybody about Things We Never Got Over. I said it's slow to start, but trust me, the ending will be worth it. And I'm hoping that this is the case too. And I feel like I'm gonna like this one more knowing how she writes and her writing style and how the pacing of the book is gonna be. I'm a little more prepared going into this one because I would like to own all 3 books in this series so far because I do love the way these look. But this one is about Nash Morgan, the officer in the same town. I'm pretty sure it's called Knock 'em Out. Excited to read from his grumpy ass. The last physical book I have on this TBR is The Most Likely Club by Elisa Friedland. This was a book that I had seen in stores and I refrained from buying at the time because I didn't hear anything about it. People weren't like raving about it. And then they had it as a book of the month add-on, and I love this cover so much, and it just sounded like something different for me, but something that I would absolutely love. So I snagged it, but I haven't read it since then. Like, for some reason I had to have it at the time and then didn't read it. At their milestone high school reunion, a group of friends makes a pact to finally achieve their high school superlatives one way or another in this lively new novel. So, I don't know, sounds cute, sounds like a good time, sounds like it's gonna just be like an easy read and not about too many emotions. So now let's talk about the books I don't physically own yet that are coming out this year that are definitely going to be on my 24 in 2024. The first one being The Wilds by Sarah Pierce. This is the 3rd book to the Detective Ellen Warner series. It's just a thriller series, but there's something about Sarah Pierce's writing that I just eat right up. And I think part of it is that her twists are so shocking. Like, when I read The Sanatorium, I was like, oh, it's this person. It has to be. There's no other way this book could end. And then it would end a completely different way that I never would have guessed, and literally kept me on my toes the entire time I was reading it. And then I read the 2nd book, loved it. And the thing that has me so hooked on these books is, in the first one, The Sanatorium, there's like somebody following Ellen around and you don't find out who it is. And the very last like sentence or two, or on the last page, it leaves on a major cliffhanger with like this unidentified person. And then in the 2nd book, you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to figure out who that person was. In the 2nd book, you don't find out who that was. So I'm really hoping that in the 3rd book, we find out who that character was and why they're like creepily following this detective around. But we shall see. So that is one. That comes out July 16th. And I am so excited because I think I'm going to be getting an early copy of that. I had somebody reach out to me last summer from the publisher seeing if I wanted to read the 2nd book, which is The Retreat. And I was like, actually, I already have that book. Like, I already read it and loved it. So thank you, but I don't need it. Don't waste the effort it's going to take to get me that book. And then when I heard that this book was coming out, her 3rd book, I reached out to that same person and I was like, hey, I'm just shooting my shot here, but is there any way I could get an early copy of that? And the girl I was originally talking to was on maternity leave, so I emailed the person that's covering for her. And the girl was like, oh my god, totally, but like, can you reach back out in February when like the holiday craze dies down? And I was like, yeah, I can do whatever you need me to do if you're gonna send me an early copy of my most anticipated book of the year. So more to come on that. Hopefully I get that early copy, but very excited to read this one this year. The next book I have is Promise Me This by Hannah Bird. As you all know, I absolutely love Hannah Bird. She is a smaller indie author. She wrote these 2 books that I absolutely love, The End and then What's Left of Me. They're basically just gut-wrenching love stories. Each follow a character that is kind of broken in their own way, and then they find love. And the more she writes books, the spicier they're becoming. She actually wrote a holiday novella, and let me tell you, so I already have this book pre-ordered. It's coming to me January 30th, which is only a couple weeks away. I'm so excited. And she was just teasing, I don't know if it was this book or another book she's writing. She was just teasing about another book she's writing. And I said, please tell me there's some spice. I'm pretty sure in Promise Me This, it's about a girl that goes to Ireland or lives in Ireland or something and is trying to find love, and she basically finds a like dad that's hot and not married, a single dad. Sorry, I should have said that first. And I'm pretty sure they have some steamy sex, so I'm very excited about that. But this will be coming soon and I cannot wait. I love me some Hannah Bird. The last book I have on my 24 in 2024 is Serendipity by Becky Charlson. You guys already know I love Becky Charlson. She is actually like Chris's second cousin or something like that, so I do know her personally. I absolutely love her. She is like the cutest human being ever. She wrote Kismet, which came out last year, which they're just contemporary like fiction romances, but there's something about the way she writes that makes you feel every single emotion that the character is like going through. Like everything your character is feeling that you're reading from, you're feeling, and it like rips your heart out but then puts it back together and you always get your happy ending. So it's not a series or anything, but obviously Kismet takes place in Kismet Fire Island, which is on Long Island. This book also takes place in Fire Island, and this comes out June 4th, which I also think I'm getting an early copy of this, which I'm so excited for. She just writes like adorable beachy reads, but like when I want a beachy read, I want something that's going to completely shatter my heart and then put it all back together and make me happy at the end and like cry happy tears. And that's what Becky's books do. That is my TBR for the year of 2024. And I'm not really calling it like my 2024 TBR because I'm doing monthly TBRs, but this is like my year-long TBR, and they are the 24 books I really want to read in the year of 2024. But if you see any of your favorites in this stack or any books that you think I should get to ASAP, please let me know in the comments below. I do have a little jar with each title written out on a piece of paper, and I'm going to choose 2 prompts from this stack each month and hopefully read them. But yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to give this video a like and give it some love. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a video. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye!